Grace, mercy, and peace be unto you from God our Father, Mother, and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit, our guide and comforter. I'm Rob. Nice to meet you. I've been here at Webster a little bit over the last several years. My husband Scott and I have been deeply moved by the interest in the Labyrinth, and that's generally when you sort of see me and us showing up. And so I always think that if someone's going to stand up here and chat at you for a while, it's probably good that you know this person. Because while sermons, at least in my growing up times, were like 20 minutes long. I grew up Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. And that's a lot to ask a preacher to do, like get to know me and talk about the stuff that we're supposed to talk about. So now that that's all done, let's get into the meat of what we're going to do here today. The first thing I'd like you to do, please, is to allow your gaze to soften or your eyes to close. So allow yourself to be fully present in this moment. Settle in. Feel the pew supporting you. Take a few deep breaths, breathing in and out. In and out. Again, breathing in and out. Allowing your body to return to its natural breathing rhythm. Allow yourself to take a trip back in your memory. Reflect on a time when you took a walk. This can be a walk that you took recently, or a walk that is from the distant past. Perhaps it was a short walk, or a long hike. Maybe this walk was a routine part of your day, your week, your month. Or maybe it was a unique experience, limited to just one time. Maybe this wasn't a literal walk, but more a journey of the soul walking through a difficult or an exciting time. Once you've found this memory of a walk, and it's settled into your mind, I invite you to see if you can identify as many details of this memory as possible. Details such as the specifics of the surroundings, the time of day, what you were wearing, where you were, who you were with. All sorts of details. And when you have these details, or you're starting to notice them coming in, allow yourself to turn your inquiry inward. Remembering that this exercise is about finding a memory of the time that you took a walk. Allow yourself to fully see yourself on this walk. Again, those details should help anchor it for you. Now see if you can go a layer deeper. See if you can identify an emotion that you are experiencing in this moment of your memory. As you take this walk, are you happy, sad, anxious, content, calm, curious? What emotion are you feeling in this memory of this walk? Allow yourself to sit for a moment with this emotion and reflect on it, and notice how it relates to the walk, if it does. Now allow yourself to take a deep breath, breathing in and out. Begin to notice with your senses the space around you, the pew supporting you, the temperature of the room, the sounds around you. And when you're ready, allow your eyes to gently open back up. Welcome back. We're still at Webster Church. Just by a show of hands, were you able to come to a memory of a walk? Were you able to identify an emotion that came along with that walk? Oh, lots of hands. I love this. Excellent. Good. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to spend the next 3 minutes talking. Ready? I'd like you to turn to the person or people next to you and answer these questions. What was this like? What was your memory? And what was your emotion? Can you do it? The first or the three were, what was this like for you? What was your memory? And what was your emotion? Ready? Set, go. I'm coming to you. Did you have a memory? Did you have one specifically and why? stories and to continue to share in this time, or the things that you learned in this time. I'm curious, did anyone have a memory of walking a labyrinth? Oh, one. I thought I'd be the only labyrinth nerd in the room. Two. Okay, good. Excellent. Wonderful. Well, as you can see from the title of my message today, even though we're loosely using the bulletin just for reference, we are going to be spending some time talking about the exercise, dare I say, the spiritual discipline of reflecting. That's why you'll see some mirrors positioned around the sanctuary. Now, reflecting is different than simply remembering or recalling a memory. Wikidiff, this is actually a website. You put in two different words and you find out a comparison and contrast of them. until last night, believe it or not. But it says that the difference between remember and reflect is that remembering is to engage in the process of recalling memories. I remember that time I had to walk uphill to school both ways. Were there any of those out here? Okay, cool. While reflecting is to think seriously, to ponder, or to consider. Christianity today puts it this way: reflection is serious thought or consideration, contemplation, deliberation, pondering, meditation, and musing. It's a cornerstone that we can use, as Pastor Charity described and showed us with the kids, to build our faith. It's one of the things that we can do to help grow our faith, to sit, to ponder, to spend some time intentionally remembering and going even farther to reflecting. Which makes me think of one of my favorite Bible passages from Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable. I love this scripture because there's all these cool things in it. If there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Or, as it was reimagined by Eugene Peterson in The Message, summing it all up, friends, I'd say you'll do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious. The best, not the worst. The beautiful, not the ugly. Things of praise, not things of curse. That reminds me of something that Donna Champagne taught me. Y'all know Donna, right? She taught me about something that John Kabat-Zinn said about mindfulness. He says that mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally. Now, there's a lot to unpack in that one sentence, but I want to focus on purpose. With intent, or with intention is another way of expressing it. So, if we were to sit down with Eugene Peterson as colleagues, we may say, hey, what if you changed it to say this? Friends, I'd say you'll do best by filling your minds reflecting and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, and do it on purpose. So then we hear in today's reading from Ecclesiastes, and we all have gotten a good tour through navigating our scriptures. There's an opportune time to do things, a right time for everything on earth, and you know the list. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, and on and on and on. I told you at the beginning my name is Rob, and we've been kind of friends of Webster Church for about 3 years now, but what I didn't tell you is that I'm a musician. Through and through, to the very core, every fiber of my being. If you biopsied or, what's the word? If you...
Your DNA.
Yes, if you checked my DNA, that's the word, you would see musician clearly written there. I can tell you that this is so because I can remember when I was a child, sitting at our family stereo, the one that sat proudly on the shelf in the back of the living room. I was blasting some sort of orchestral music, a symphony or something that was being played on WQRS, the Detroit classical music station. Now, the stereo, circa 1973, was one of those stereos that was fancy. It had this thing that you could slide back and forth to make the sound go to the right speaker and then back over to the left speaker. And it had another slider that you could slide up and down that would change more treble sound, or you could slide it out to a bass sound, right? On this very day, I was listening loudly to some classical music while playing with these sliders back and forth and up and down. And I'm sure the entire city of Roseville, Michigan was wondering just what was going on in the back of our living room. Finally, my mother, I'm sure desperate for a moment of peace, came in. Robbie, cut it out, you're driving me crazy. And without missing a beat, as if I was sitting in the orchestra following that conductor, I said, "But Mom, I'm conducting the orchestra." She had no defense against my defense of my actions. I think I was asked maybe to turn it down a little bit. But I tell you that story to let you know how much music, how much sound and vibration and frequency has played a very important part of my life for a very long time. My father was a hippie from back in the day. He wore his hair long despite my grandmother's attempts to get him to cut it. And if circumstances had been different, he'd have been there at Woodstock. He loved the music of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Herman's Hermits, the Who, Jimi Hendrix, the Grateful Dead, and on the list would go. All music, all sound and vibration. But my musical interests and my father's musical interests couldn't have been farther on the spectrum from one another. Yet every time I hear that reading from Ecclesiastes today, I can't help but find myself back in that living room in Roseville, Michigan, listening to the stereo. You know it, the opening guitar riffs. Eventually the drum comes in and we hear, "To everything, turn, turn, turn." Should make that our opening.
I know.
Having shared both of those memories with you, and I will admit, having given them much consideration since learning about what our scripture would be for today's service, I remembered that reflecting was a good thing to do. It wasn't until I sat down to start fleshing out exactly what I was going to share this morning that I really, in earnest, started to reflect on them, but I did. I even took a weekend and drove to the mountains of West Virginia, my mom's home state, to sit with these memories. I journaled, reflected, walked the Labyrinth, and more. And after moments, many moments, I began to question, why are you spending so much time thinking about these memories? Seemingly normal memories from my childhood and upbringing that, truth be told, bring a tinge of grief and longing. I carried on because I learned that it is a good practice not just to remember, but to reflect on things. After all, it was Socrates that said the unexamined life isn't worth living. So I continued reflecting, and at times the process felt a little like this mirror over here. What do you notice about it? It's broken. A happy accident, I suppose they would say. But suddenly then, amidst the shards of broken glass and mirror, I began to realize that my questioning was just a little bit off. You see, I was holding the expectation that the goal was to come out of this process of reflecting on these memories with some new insight, maybe even something profound to share with you today. I'd made the inevitable end the destination. But what I learned was that that perceived destination wasn't the goal. Was not the goal. But rather the process of the journey was the destination. So what's the point of all of this? All of these stories and these things, and what does this have to do with walking the labyrinth after all? That's kind of what we're here to do, or what we had planned to be here to do this morning. Well, I believe that one of the reasons we come to the labyrinth And the reason we do any of these types of spiritual activities is so that in the midst of this fast-paced world, full of political upset, global warming, gender and racial inequality, the point of being intentionally mindful of pausing to breathe, as we heard earlier, is to take in these moments so that we might learn from the journey and so that we might grow as human beings on this path, and to do so on purpose. I'd like to share with you a short poem by Jill Kimberly Jefferson that's called Going for a Walk. As we walk the labyrinth, remember other walks you've taken. We did that already this morning. A walk by the water, a walk with a friend or a pet, up a hill or mountain, through the woods. Wonder about the walking you have done and how it relates to the walking you are now, or for our purposes, soon to be doing. As we enter the labyrinth, we have this amazing threshold, and we cross into this liminal space where we can release, receive, return. Not just so that we discover the goal as some sort of destination, but so that we can learn to enjoy the journey as the destination.